The new Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook Wild Game Recipes for the Grill, Smoker, Campfire, and Camp Stove is out on April 24th and is available for pre-order now. Here is your book for everything that's best cooked or eaten outside. From grilling to open fire cooking to Dutch ovens to smokers to barbecue to backpacking meals to how to pull off the perfect fish fry, with pit stops along the way for lessons about Ice Age cooking methods and the best 5 ways to construct a cooking fire you can be proud of. And of course, we're focusing on wild game and fish here with over 100 recipes, including stuffed venison burgers 3 ways, wild duck with ahi verde sauce, a jerky made with cola, a gin and tonic made with fire-charred lemons, and grilled frog legs made with a sticky sweet sauce. This ain't your normal cookbook, so be prepared to be surprised. Pre-order your copy now. For more info, visit themeateater.com.
Hey, I'm Tyler.
And I have a stomach ache.
And you're listening to
The Element Podcast.
What's happening, all my Woods people? Today, we're talking to Five Guys Burgers and Fries. This is if you hadn't heard of it, it's a restaurant chain, and there are plenty of eaters in this group right now. So on the podcast today, for real, we do have 5 guys. We've got KC Smith, which is the crowd favorite here. Eric Gentry.
What's up?
Yep. Greg Latham.
Hello.
And we got Michael Stoll.
Yes, sir.
Dang, dude, quiet over there. people don't get it.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a lot of inside jokes that we're going to have in this podcast, I feel like. And you're not going to understand many of them if you're a listener, but we will try to explain as many as possible. I'm actually on the outside of some of these jokes, so I'm looking forward to this podcast, getting to know what has been said while I was gone. There was a basic element party that I was not able to be a part of.
It's funny because it seems like you were gone, but we were actually gone. It's just the element left you.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Left me in the dust.
We did, literally.
Texas.
It got dusty here real quick.
Well,
Yeah.
Anyway, so you guys just got back from Arizona, actually. Place that the element started, pretty much.
It did. We drove real close to there. Mm-hmm. I was telling the guys about it. That's still a really cool place.
It is, man. I want to go back.
So you go through the one town and then the other town, and then you go up top, and you can turn left to go where we went. Mm-hmm. We drove past that turn, so we were real close, 2 or 3 miles. We could see the mountain that we caught the Apache on.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
It's
cool.
pretty sick, pretty slick. But that's all the way at the end of it. We better start at the beginning, or as the Genesis, as our friend says. But before we get into this big story, I do think that it's worth mentioning that this is the 3rd of 3 trips the Element has taken that already in the 2022 hunting season that an animal has been put down. And that's exciting.
Y'all shot a grouse?
I wish. We saw a weird bird.
Saw something.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. It's all weird. But you had an awesome mule deer hunt. There's a podcast about that. Y'all go listen to that. But before that even, Hunter Dickens and a couple of these fellers and Brian Bostic went to Tennessee, and Hunter put the smack down, and Greg put the smack down on the footage on a big old Tennessee velvet buck. That video is on YouTube for y'all to check out if you haven't.
It's a sick video.
It is so cool. We actually just kind of watched it here in the living room on the Jumbotron, and it was pretty cool, man. And you can tell, we actually just posted a reel. So funny story. The guys are up there hunting with Chad from Cruiser, as y'all know pretty well if you are a follower of this podcast. And, they're hunting out of saddles because, Chad owns Cruiser and all that stuff and help him out and all that. Well, in classic HTH fashion, they were a little behind getting to their place that morning, it would seem. That has never been said, but I'm going to go ahead and make an assumption. And
I feel like somebody should have woke them up, right?
Probably somebody should have woke them up. But Greg has a great suggestion that they should stand next to a tree. and that's what they end up doing and smacking a big buck. But you can see in the reel that I just posted that Greg was wearing his cruiser saddle. So even if you're not hanging in the saddle, it's still comfortable to wear as an accessory, right, Greg?
Yeah, and you can still kill deer
That's
out of
right. Still kill deer out of it on the ground.
It's just like, it's almost like if you put it on, you're going to kill a
That's
deer.
it.
You know what I
It's
mean?
magic.
That's it. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
But their celebration kind of sadly didn't make the cut as much as this reel shows, at least. You know, POV is how we film hunts a lot, right? This is like, second angle, so you get to see all the emotions. Pretty cool. So, anyways, if you try to be comfortable this year and you get your cruiser and you'll kill deer on the ground, in the tree, don't matter, right? But fast forward, I got to take these guys. Everybody, pretty much. Anybody who knows how to run a camera in the element, except for Tyler, went, which is very true, actually. No, Chris Webb. I don't leave Chris Webb out. Everybody except Chris Webb and Tyler Jones, who knows how to run a camera, went to Arizona with me. So that was me, Michael, Greg, and Eric. And I didn't know Michael was going to go until, pretty much y'all were back from Colorado, and you were like, hey, might as well take Michael, too, because... what else is he going to do?
Are you glad?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm definitely glad.
Yeah. The dude, as soon as we got to Rex Dickens' house, Michael started seeing things he's never seen before.
It's perfect.
And
That
it
was the
never
most
stopped.
west I'd ever been.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool, dude. Awesome.
Yeah, so
Traveling the world.
he's just smiling the whole time, dude. He's
Yeah, I
a happy
bet.
guy.
That's good.
But I guess... what do you want to do? You want us to just go down the timeline and story and talk about stuff, or what?
Not really. I'm feel like I'm, I need some part in this.
That's
what I mean?
what I'm trying to
I think that I definitely think that there's some inside stuff that I don't know how to dredge it out of you guys,
Yeah.
but I got to figure out that kind of stuff. But yeah, maybe we tell kind of. Spoiler alert, KC killed something. We're going to talk about what that is. Do you care if I tell people what that is right now?
Go ahead.
So KC killed a cow elk, which is a tasty critter from what I understand. And something that's not easily done necessarily. So we're going to talk about how that's not necessarily easy.
There will be a decent amount of tactic, I would say, in this podcast because one of the things that Greg and I specifically talked a lot about, because he's done some elk hunting, these two guys here were learning about the elk. Eric was dropping pins on ranger stations and saying that's where we would go. He had some funny jokes.
They're there, you just don't know.
That's right. They're there.
Yeah.
But it's one of the things that Greg and I talk a lot about is how different the strategy was for a cow hunt versus a bull hunt, and then how it actually would help you overall kill elk and stuff.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. So let's just talk about that kind of, and then we can go into some of the funniest moments of the trip if
okay.
they don't surface it during the story.
Sounds good to me.
Basically, you guys leave Rex Dickens, and what happens? What were y'all doing there? Getting your scents and stuff?
No, we
or-
didn't stop. We just drove by. But we drove to Amarillo. That's how far we made it, because that's like halfway to everywhere, pretty much.
How many A's are in that word?
Less than I say. Amarillo, which Michael got a lesson in Spanish this whole time.
Good. He's going to
Yeah.
keep getting that.
We were talking about Acatillo, Lechuguilla, and what was Chola.
We said,
And yeah, Wisatch probably is an Indian word, I would think.
You think?
But I don't know.
oh,
Yeah.
aren't Mexicans Indians?
Yeah,
pretty much?
partially.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm an Indian, but I'm not a Mexican. I'm an American.
gotta be a real Indian sometime.
Yeah.
So we had this weird thing where y'all got back and we left, and we grabbed Eric and a bunch of stuff and threw it in my truck and left. So we actually didn't leave out as early as I wanted to that day, and we're planning on making it all the way to the hunting spot, but we left 7 hours later than what we were really trying to, which was fine because we stayed in a really nice place that wasn't very expensive. I'll just go ahead and say, if you're on the road hunting and you see a True, which is a hotel, it's a pretty legit spot to stay. It's like a new thing from Hilton or whatever, and they're inexpensive and good. This is a unpaid promotion here, but just saying, a good night's sleep is a nice thing, and we got that night. And then we headed out from Amarillo to Arizona. Drove through New Mexico, Albuquerque, did the whole thing. And then, dude, at some point in time, it's like about to the El Malpai stuff. Remember that? The lava flow?
Yeah.
So once you get past that, all the way to Flagstaff, not that it's not cool, but it is kind of a long drive.
Yeah.
It's pretty flat out there. I think y'all did that drive a couple years back, right? We did a podcast.
Yeah, we went to the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, you
went to the Gila.
You were in a hotel, and there's an elk hanging above you in Flagstaff. Yeah.
Is that where you were?
No.
Oh.
I wish. But it's a long drive right there. So, and from Flagstaff, we kind of dispersed and went to our hunting spot. We got there in time to hunt the first evening. And so we're kind of talking about strategy about what we're going to do for the place, because it's a sight unseen unit. I think this is a pretty good thing to talk about for a lot of guys, because a lot of people are going to go elk hunting to a place they've never been before, either because they don't go elk hunting often, so they're going with a buddy, or they're just adventuring out, or a lot of these states have draw tags, right? And that's what mine was a draw tag. And guess what? If you draw the tag, there's a decent chance you haven't been there before, so it's a new place for you. So there's kind of like this interesting thing about elk hunting where you're going to a new place a lot of times, and how do you approach that? Well, we decided the best thing to do would be to drive around on some of the roads, get an idea of what we're dealing with here, and then hop off in this place that has like a soft spot, that a decent spot distance between roads, and just do a loop and just pretty much get your feet under yourself.
This is a very similar approach that we take to whitetail hunting a lot of times too. It's like, drive around, see what the country looks like, because it almost always looks a little different than you pictured it when you're looking at Onyx.
It looks a lot different. And this ain't Onyx's fault, because it's just aerial maps, right? But you can tell it's Ponderosa country on Onyx, and the roads are legit. Like, I use that forest layer or U.S. Forest Service roads map, and it's like on the money about what type of road it is usually, whether it's ATV or, heavy duty 4x4 or car or whatever. And that's kind of how we navigated to where we're going to go. But the aerial itself never really tells the true story. You have to get on the ground and check it out. And that's what we did. And man, it is way thicker. It looks like arid country on the map. Like it's going to be like
desert.
And it is not. It is the mountain forest.
It's cool, man.
Grass and bushes, and yeah, it's awesome. And what you also can't tell from the aerial is the tonnage of mosquitoes.
Oh boy.
What in the world?
This is Arizona desert, okay? Why are we having mosquitoes? The first evening, it was as bad as where I lived on the Texas coast.
You know what I don't want to do?
Go when that happens.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know how bad the other guys are. Mine was the least worst. Do you see all those red dots on my shoulder? Michael. So here's an inside joke.
Yeah, I was thinking this might have something to do.
Greg and I have the gene where the mosquitoes don't bother us as bad.
Yeah.
Eric has the same thing. You said don't normally bother you as bad.
Yeah, no, not
but
really.
on this trip, yours swelled up a little bit.
Yeah, it's basically because I started itching them. So it just...
lack of self-control, of course.
Yeah.
But Michael, on the other hand, has that gene where they swell up. If you can see right now, he's got a little red spot on his neck still right there. Well, the Wick hoodie is not very mosquito-proof, and he had it over his head, but his ears were getting pelted.
And mauled. They are scabbed over still,
dude.
right now.
Mosquitoes changed Michael's looks while we were there.
Yeah, for
His
real.
face puffed up, his ears poked out further.
Like a good couple inches, too. Not
No,
just
dude,
like
yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah,
like they were here.
Yeah.
They were like out.
Absolutely.
They were to the point where I was walking down a mountain one day and could feel them flying.
One of the funniest things, dude. It was like I remember that evening at camp looking at Michael and being like, he looks different. And I thought, I was like,
Probably just tired.
I was just like, I guess his hat's sitting on his ears weird or something. But I was like, man, his ears are bigger than I remember them being. And then for the whole weekend, Well, no, I gave him some Benadryl the next day, I think, and it kind of helped a little bit.
Definitely helped.
But his face and his ears were swollen. It was pretty funny.
That's bad news, man.
It was. They were really bad.
And then, so what kind of fruition happened there in the inside joke world? Was there something that happened there?
Just that we started calling him Dumbo because his ears were sticking out.
Because my ears were making me almost flop over.
He coined it himself. He's like, I feel like Dumbo. My ears are flopping around.
What was hilarious is as soon as y'all just said that, I was thinking about that GIF that you posted. Somebody posted yesterday in the group, and it's Dumbo flying on his ears.
It's very similar to that.
Yeah. So that was pretty funny. But that night, we actually had some pretty interesting elk stuff go on, too. We didn't... So it was a situation where our first place we picked on the map wasn't what I hoped it would be. Like, it's a weird thing because it's a special draw unit, right, that doesn't get a ton of pressure. So elk there don't really treat roads like we think about them treating roads in our minds. Mm-hmm. You know, there's a lot of roads in this unit, and that's how it is in a lot of these places because of, you know, foresting and stuff like that, or timber harvest, or whatever you want to call it. But so we were like trying to get away from roads. And another thing you have to kind of figure out is what elevation are the elk living at a lot of times. And I think we were a little low that night. But on the way out, we heard a bugle, and then we started messing with them. And then we heard another bugle, and they were both higher than us. So that kind of told us, okay, we need to be a little higher. Well, we ended up playing with this one bull for a while, and it was kind of dark. He didn't want to leave his hole, but we could tell, looking on X at the topo, that like he was just in this little like semicirque in the side of a like slope. Like it was like you could pick it out on a map. Like that's where elk would be, right, Greg?
Yep.
Yeah, so that's where he was living. He loved the lip ball, figured that out too. I've heard that from Steve Chappell too. He likes to do lip ball in that country. You know, apparently that's the thing they do. So every time I'd lip ball, he'd answer or chuckle or do something. And we just kind of had fun that night and went back and set up camp and made a plan for the next morning to go to a different higher spot. So we camped, and this is one of those things too where you can't tell from the aerial, but it looked like there's a pull-off over here at this spot. We're going to go camp there. Well, we pull up, and there's recreators and their RVs with generators and all kinds of stuff there. So not the wild experience you're looking for from elk camp too much. Mm. But whenever it's like 8 p.m., you're hungry, and you know you got to get up early in the morning and gain like 250, 300-foot elevation, you just deal with it and set up camp. And that's what we did. And it ended up working out okay for a few days. The next morning, we left out of camp, didn't drive anywhere, and went up a mountain and pretty much walked a ridgeline and got into elk even more. So there's a progression throughout this thing that makes me happy. Every hunt, we were more into elk. Like morning and evening, the progression is more into elk, even better hunts. And that's a good feeling. It's a good confidence booster whenever you're out there. Greg, you've hunted elk a little bit. How did you feel?
Yeah, just a little bit. This was way better than my OTC experiences.
Where you almost died?
Yeah. And don't have to worry about altitude sickness.
Yeah.
How high would you hunt on OTC stuff?
I got up to 11.4.
That's high.
That's where we camped.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Not to say it's not high, but
you feel it up there.
Yeah, it's different.
It was different. Here. Didn't feel altitude except for like maybe one time a little bit, but it was nothing. You know, I mean, we're hunting between 6 and 8 the whole time.
Yeah.
And it's just
mosquito country.
Yeah, it's exactly
low
right.
Country.
It's exactly what
the
it was.
old country.
Mosquito country. And Eric was, of course, very influential in all our decisions that we were making as far as tactics and location and stuff. Yeah, he's
sending you lots of pins.
Yeah, he's sending some pins. It was pretty funny.
I mean, his pins on X were probably what killed y'all that elk, right?
Mm-hmm. Probably.
I'd say so.
Because you knew not to go there.
That's exactly right. But colored Eric's pin's a different weird color. Like, oh, not that one. Purple. No way. No. We had... we had a good time having all 4 of us up there. There's some like drawbacks to having 4 dudes stalking around, and we kind of had to figure that out a little bit. It's like by the way, we way overkilled it on production for this stuff, is having like 2 guys running a video camera and 1 guy running a stills camera, but it's more like 4 guys hunting, and we might as well be filming if we're there. It's kind of how we treated it. Well, that morning we were kind of working through some of that stuff, listening for elk. I also thought I heard a dude bugle, but like in hindsight, it was probably an elk that morning, just because there just wasn't a lot of hunters, so probably was elk being where it was. And we thought we heard cows. Ended up walking down this ridge a ways, and we're in deer sign the whole time. We're like, well, dude, where is the elk? Where are the elk? Because it's like you're an animal sign, but it's not the right one, so it's not doing you a lot of good. We set up on these rocks to kind of chill and kind of have like brunch or whatever you want to call it, mid-morning snack, and start kind of messing around on the bugle tube just to kind of make some sounds, and then start talking a little louder, and then all of a sudden Michael goes, I don't remember exactly what he said.
Listen, it was the first elk I'd ever seen, okay? I was freaking out.
It was, he said something like, they're in the bottom or something. I don't know what he said, but we could oversee it quite a bit. Well, it ended up we spooked like 6 or 7 cows off from below us across a canyon bottom, which was sad, but we were already talking about how, like, at this point in the hunt, it'd be good just to spook some elk, just so you know where they're at. So it wasn't like too much of a defeat. It was like, oh, wow, because we wouldn't have gone down there anyways at that point in time, so we wouldn't ever have been on them. But we were, like, back in the mode of the hunt at that point in time. And so we decided to get up and make a little further down this ridge line, literally, like, 75 yards from there. We kind of like come over a crest, and there's a cow and 2, not fawns, but yearlings or calves, yeah. And then we're like, start making moves, It's like, oh gosh, they're right there, And she looked at me up and down and just decided I was a tree and just went back to eating. So that was good. Well, I went real aggressive on them because they started moving, not off from us, but I think they were in motion as they were feeding and trying to hit them off. And I was like, man, I don't want to lose sight of them. So I tried to kind of like flank them. And then I think a calf caught one of the 4 of us moving through the woods. Who knows? And they all busted out or whatever. But we all have a better feeling of where elk are at that point in time. And we're all real hype. We make another big loop trying to find them. And then, we walked a good bit that day. And we're on the way out, and we're hearing something that I think was an elk coughing up a cud. So we're stalking in real close to this and like taking some time, relaxing, listening, trying to figure out where the elk are, because one of the things I have found out is that I move too fast a lot of times in the elk woods, and if I'll stop and listen, the elk will tell you a little bit more about where they're at. Well, it's also a good time for people to catch a nap from time to time. And here's where our friend Eric enters the story. This might be one of the best, and he likes it too, so that's good. We're not making fun of him. It's real funny. This might be like a season 22 type thing. You know what I mean? Like this is the thing we talk about a lot.
Is this better than Mitchell waking up calling turkeys?
It's very similar.
It's
very similar. Very similar. We're all lined up kind of underneath this oak brush, like kind of hiding in the shadows a little bit and relaxing. And you're doing that thing where, like, if you're on a slope, you can use your pack to kind of lean against, and kind of make a backrest or whatever. And Eric is catching some Z's, and he just takes his finger while he's asleep, points his hand up in the air with his finger up while he's dead asleep, and then wakes up with his hand in the air. We watch him do it. And he's like, oh. I just dreamed I saw a mule deer and was pointing at it.
I mean, keep in mind, like you said earlier, I had just gotten back from a mule deer hunt and left the next day, so your boy was tired. Yeah. In my dream, I just see a huge mule deer. I'm like, right there. He's right there. I wake up and I look around, and Casey just has this look like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, I'm not getting out of this one. So.
Oh, man. Oh, yeah. Eric is tired for sure because earlier that morning, I have a coffee maker thing. It's like a camp type French press, okay? And so Greg, Eric, and I are coffee drinkers. Michael's too young, has yet to feel the warmth of coffee, if you know what I mean.
I just don't need it.
He just doesn't need it, he says. He says at least. You push this French press thing down in this pot, and then there's a pouring spot on the side of the pot. You pour the coffee out, okay? Well, Eric...
Just so you know, I have no clue what's going on.
Yeah, a lot of people do. Eric didn't explore the system too much, and he goes to pour the French press plastic part sticks out the top a little further. He's trying to pour the coffee out of the French press thing, but the spigot on the actual pot is pouring the coffee, and he's just missing his cup by 2 inches and pours out like a whole cup of coffee on the ground. And he's just like, why isn't it working? And I kind of grumpily I just go, Eric, what are you doing? Because I thought he was pouring coffee on the ground for some reason. Like, I would drink that. So that's probably why he had to catch that nap, because he didn't get all his coffee that morning beforehand.
Yeah.
And then he's trying to, like, after the laughter happens, he's going back to sleep. And his backpack slips out from underneath, falls backwards. So Ronnie's just going to sleep. That is another motif of this whole
rough trip.
Trip is that Eric doesn't quite get to go to sleep whenever he wants to. So that was that morning.
It's because he didn't sleep much at all in Colorado.
Yeah,
we sat there and burned holes in the brush for 7 hours with our eyes. So he was probably pretty tired.
We coined a new phrase. So Eric is not a true ginger, but he is redheaded. He can tan, but he can singe too. And so after looking at the Colorado footage, there's a phrase that is called "singe the ginge," and Eric participated in that activity for sure. Well, we were on elk to an extent, but we conferred with one another that it probably wasn't the highest level of population around there. Like we talked about it. It was like, man, we could come back here and maybe kill an elk, but let's go explore some more. So we decided, well, here's something I don't like to do on elk hunting trips that we ended up doing a lot on this trip, and that's running to town midday to do something. What?
About like whitetail hunting.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Oh, that's why, because we came back midday there. Tell it, Greg. What happened?
Well, I was going to say the rain.
Yes. I forgot that was that day.
I was going to ask that earlier.
The monsoon.
Yeah.
While I was trying to nap.
Yeah, Eric, of course, mad because he can't nap because the rain. So
there cracks me up in that story video where he says something like, "What is happening here?" Real loud.
We can hear thunder, and we have phone service here, which is kind of nice, so we can check weather and stuff, and we can tell it's about to rain, and then it starts raining a little bit, so we're all going to nap, because we're pretty tired. We could tell Eric needed a nap, so why not let the rest of us grab one too?
Here's an idea.
So, by the way, when I comment on Eric's stuff now, I use the pointer finger.
It's like E.T.
Yeah, that's it. And so it starts raining a little bit. I'm like, whatever. Well, then all of a sudden the bottom falls out, and Greg and I have to get up because tent rain flies, especially on cheaper tents, are only good for drizzles pretty much. Like as soon as it starts being heavy, it's over. Well, we start getting the drip, and Greg and I get up to kind of help that. And Greg, being the smart guy he is, he says, hey, should we go get that tarp? And I'm thinking, man, if we go get that tarp, we're going to get soaking wet and the rain's going to stop by about the time we get it out. And you already instructed us that it was life or death on if you get the tarp out of the
I knew that
package
played
or
into
not.
that decision. I felt bad when I saw the video because I was like, dadgummit, They didn't want to mess the tarp up.
I didn't, but
I was kind of halfway kidding about that. Though.
Yeah, well, I know I knew what you meant by it because you can't ever get it back in the package.
Yeah.
But it was very well warranted to get the tarp out of the package, and I decided to hold off because, one, I knew I'd get soaking wet if I went out.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, I've been in these mountain storms before. They
They'll
only last
quick.
5 minutes.
Yeah.
3 hours.
Oh my gosh.
I guarantee you it did not stop raining for 3 hours. And 2 hours of that, it was some of the hardest rain of my life. And about an hour into it, we decided, okay, let's go get the tarp. So we went out and got the tarp and put it on top of the tent, but not soon enough for our tent to not be wet enough to hold a stand of crappie or two in it. So
episode 36, I think.
Yeah.
If you want to know about the stand of crappie. Let me look that up and fact check.
Michael was in the stand of crappie spot over there for sure.
Michael.
So we get soaking wet. Everything is just soaked, man. I mean, sleeping bags and the tent, of course, mattresses, all of it.
There was literally one dry spot, and that's where laptops and cameras were.
Yeah.
It's a good spot.
It was definitely all about the protection of that stuff for sure. And there's some funny videos that we have on the phone that might end up making it in the video of this hunt just because when stuff like that's going on, sometimes the phone's what you have to whip out. You can't get out the real camera. Eric's mad, of course, because he gets woken up from about 30 seconds of sleep. And then we decided to go get in the truck because we're getting too wet. Like, there comes a point of abandonment. And if you've done enough backcountry type stuff or camping on the beach or whatever, like sooner or later you know when it's time to just abandon ship and go get in the truck, right? And just let the tent be what it is. And we got to that point. But then the rain finally subsided and it was a little drizzle so we could get out and do some stuff. Made some coffee. Showed Eric how the coffee pourer worked, to kind of warm ourselves up. And then we decided to go to town and go to the laundromat and dry our sleeping bags out, which I'm glad we did because it made the evening a lot more tolerable. But that put us on a delay for the hunt for the evening, and that made me sad. We were even on a more delay because Mr. Sleepy Ginge forgot the stills camera at camp. So we had to take like a 45-minute detour to go get the stills camera from camp, which I'm glad we got because it came in very handy later. And when I say that, what I mean is he forgot the stills camera in the truck when we went into the woods too. So the 45-minute journey back to get the stills camera didn't even do us any good.
Hey, people got food and stuff, so yeah, you're welcome.
It was holding the truck down on the side of the mountain.
Yeah.
So
all the winds after the storm.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was fun. Not a big deal though. Whatever. We got cell phone pics to document it, so it's fine. But that evening, we drove to a new spot after we map scouted for a while and figured out, like, hey, elk are at this decent elevation. This place has a little bit less roads, and there's some terrain and stuff that'll keep people out. Because we're noticing that, like, this is a limited draw unit, and if you've ever done this type of stuff, you'll realize that guys who hunt like good units, especially for elk, tend to like want to do it easy because you can do it easy in these really good units because the hunting pressure is so low. You can shoot animals from the road. Mm-hmm. Like our friend Steve Chappell, he hunts there in Arizona close to where we were, and they take the UTV and then walk like 300 yards and start bugling and kill like giant bulls. Mm-hmm. You can do that, and it's awesome, right? Yeah. So what we're noticing is like, hey, we can still go in and kind of hunt them like we normally do, make some pretty bigger loops in there and get into elk pretty quick. And so that's what we decided to do. We get in there late. There's a UTV parked at the trailhead that we were wanting to go down, so we end up just kind of bombing into this other place. And I'm down in the dumps because it's like an hour before dark and we're just now getting out of the truck. Well, we walk in 200 yards. Greg thinks he hears something. What'd you say?
I was like, I think I hear something. Like, it sounded like a foot stepping forward, like feeding. And I was like, it's probably deer because we hadn't seen much elk sign yet.
Mm-hmm. We take like 2 steps forward, and I see what I think was a spike, and then what I think is an elk that almost every individual in the U.S. would be happy taking home with them any unit. I can't give a score because I didn't get a great look, but huge frame and really, really big fourths, 35 yards from us, take off running. And so that's when I was like, hey, when Greg hears something, we need to pay attention to it. And
Greg's
not
got
just,
good audio.
No one else heard it, and I was like, I'm not sure.
That's how it works when you got 4 people, right?
Yep.
And we did this whole thing, too, where you hear a bugle and everybody points a different direction, you know?
It's fun.
Not good. Yeah.
It's turkey
Yeah,
style.
the turkey thing. Oh, man, it was back to Mitchell, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like we hear a gobble and everybody points a different direction, so you just have to get another shot gobble to see if maybe 2 people point the same direction, which would have been a heartbreaker in most situations. But if y'all haven't figured this out yet, I think we talked about it earlier, but this is a cow tag that I have. So
Cow
spooking
only.
bulls is not like the end of the world.
It's actually fun.
It is. It's
It's
cool.
like-
It's wow, we saw elk.
It's my
We saw a
favorite
big
thing
bull,
to do.
you know?
You just out there just
But
hooping
there's
and
like this
hollering.
thing of like, okay, there's 2 bulls together. Where are the cows? I guess they didn't have cows. So there's this thing where you're running an elk sign, you're seeing elk, but you're like, okay, none of these are actually targets. So it's weird. So we continue on up this trail, or not really trail, just like kind of edge of a drainage, pretty much side hilling, and run into another bull that Greg sees. I cannot find for the life of me. I have a little pine tree in front of me, and I guess he was right behind it, but he's like 100 yards away, staring us down. And then he kind of just moseyed off, not spooked, just like uninterested. And that evening ended with some good elk encounters. And my spirits were pretty lifted comparatively because I thought, like, well, this is going to be a waste of an evening, you know, and I'm ready to kill something where it's day 1.5. It's time to shoot something pretty much, you know. I went into this with the idea of like, okay, this is a cow tag. Should be able to find a cow to shoot. And then it was feeling pretty tough for the first like couple times in the woods overall. But it's getting better and better. And we decide that this area is the area we want to focus on because it's tougher to get into. The road is not as good. Like we were seeing Buick cars where we were on the other spot, like trying to elk hunt around places there's like a Buick Regal, you know, or whatever, you know what I mean?
Not sponsored, by the way, y'all.
Yeah, exactly. I wish Buicks are nice. But
Man, you are getting old.
I am, dude. Have you ridden in a luxury like Lincoln car or something lately? Like,
No, let me guess. You hopped in one with the old blue shoes guys you
No.
were hanging out with yesterday.
oh man! Oh, y'all check out the story. We're gonna have to put that on the highlight.
It's already
We went to
up.
Chick-fil-A in.
Listen, this guy.
Yeah.
He's good for something.
Well,
Even
that's
though
on the
you make
highlight
him up.
already.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's all
good.
on
So it'll
there.
be there whenever this comes out. It's probably one of the last stories, but me and these 2 geriatrics are at Chick-fil-A, and we all have on the same shoes. It's a very sweet old couple, husband and wife, and they have on these blue
I thought
New
it was
Balance-
2 dudes.
Or no, it's a husband and wife.
Really? I thought it was just 2 random dudes sitting there. My bad.
No, man.
My bad, yo.
Disrespecting this bro's wife, dude.
I got a
But
look.
she has on boys' shoes. These are Asics. See that on blue.
So they're
Asics.
asexual?
Yeah.
They don't have boy or girl
That's
shoes?
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I had to go. So there's strategy involved here too. I like went over like I was reading this sign that was on the drink machine, so I could stand right next to them and got video of all 3 of us in their blue shoes.
Oh, gosh.
So the Buick Regals were a no-go as far as like where you wanted to be elk hunting. There's just too many people. But we're still hearing bugles like at night on the other side of these campers. But we decided this is the area we want to focus on. And if we don't kill in the morning, we're going to bring our camp over here and set up because it's pretty remote. It'll be really enjoyable. We can leave out of camp and feel like we're on elk. So
She definitely looks like a woman. I just wasn't paying attention, so I'm going to say that.
That's fine.
Also,
Yeah.
I'm going to say she's definitely creeping y'all out right now for filming her. She knows, dude.
Good.
She knows.
Good. That's fine. People need to know, dude. They be put on notice. All right. Yeah. So we go back to camp. I use my Omen storm shelter as a shield to the water on my air mattress, which was a good move. It worked very well.
Good.
Yeah. So had a pretty good night's sleep that night. Decent amount of sleep. Drove back in the other place and made a play for the evening or the morning. I'm sorry. Heard bugles, made a loop down, started chasing bugles, and here's where it becomes pretty fun. Greg is like a low-key dude, right? Like, not like Loki, although he does have the hair like Loki. But he's just like chill, mellow dude, easy to be around, right? And he's still easy to be around whenever he's not, but whenever he picks it up, it's because there's animals around. And let me tell you something, it gets intense.
I've heard this thing about the eyes from several
eyes
people.
Get big.
Yeah. Dadgummit, dude, I love it, man.
It is cool.
There's nothing better than just hyping, man.
I know, dude. I know. So we here's this one bull. He's across a little drainage, so we go over kind of to see if we can mess with him. The idea is that I think elk are a lot like deer, where they'll kind of be cruising on their own in the afternoons, and then at night they'll go pick up some cows and then lose them midday. So we're thinking that when we're hearing bugles in the morning, we can go find those bulls and there'll be cows with them. And that's really, it ends up being the case, I think. Because while we're down there messing with him, we hear a couple more over the hill. We all point in different directions, but two of the guys point in the same direction. I think it was Eric and Greg. Was it? Y'all pointed?
I think all three of us pointed one way.
Except for me?
And
Yeah.
you pointed.
Eric is the
Eric
master
was asleep
pointer.
just pointing. Eric was asleep just pointing.
So I was like, all right, there's 2 or 3 of y'all that said that. I'm just going to trust you. That's where that one was. So we ended up going over the hill. And again, there was like some, I hate to use the word nuance because it gets made fun of so much, but it was nuanced in the thickness of the cover, where you're walking through and it's like junipers and oaks and stuff and some ponderosas. But then like there is like this habitat transition line that you can't really see on the map unless you look really close, where it is thicker and shaded, a lot of shady stuff. And that's where the elk were. We kind of like look at everybody and we like say, yeah, there's going to be elk in here for sure. And we take like 100 yards in, and I see what I think are elk spooking at like 200 yards, and we're going fast. So I throw out 3 cow calls, and then they like hook to us. I'm like, oh, it's about to go down. Well, what ends up happening is we have the 20-minute standoff of elk that don't have a clue we're in the world, but they're at like 65 to 100 yards, 2 bulls, and probably anywhere from 10 to 20 cows. You can't ever really see the whole group. And we're all lined up like the Four Stooges, just shoulder to shoulder. Can't do anything, and we're exposed. We just aren't good cover. We were not set up well, but not expecting that to happen. Well, Eric's at the back line, can't really tell what's going on. And there's like an elk at like 60 yards working toward us. He said, hey, is it a bull or a cow? I was like, shh, quiet.
I didn't talk that loud.
He didn't have a clue. It was in the moment, it was like, what are you doing? But he couldn't see, he couldn't see what was going on. So that's another time we're starting to figure out like, hey, if we spread out, you actually can see more because, you can look ahead or whatever.
Piled up on each other.
Yeah, exactly. Like the elk do to themselves pile up. Well, there's a giant bull in this group, a mediocre sized bull, like a 260, 280 type or whatever. And then a bunch of cows, a couple calves, and one of them is the biggest cow you have ever seen in your life. She was at 85 yards one time, and I was looking at her, I was like, I could hit that for sure, but I don't know if I have the arch of my arrow. I don't think I didn't consider it too much.
Yeah.
But I think we all remarked at how big that cow was. Michael thinks they're all huge because he's only seen deer his whole life.
Every single one looks like 3 times the size of a whitetail. It is insane.
Pretty much are.
They pretty much are. They're big critters, and they make a lot of noise whenever they're not worried about being quiet.
It's also impressive how quiet they can be, though.
I know, that's weird, isn't it?
It's crazy.
Well, we had like 20-something elk within 100 yards of us, and you couldn't hear one of them when they stopped moving around. It was weird. And then, so they finally all kind of like work to an area where we can't see, or Greg and I can't see elk, but Eric and Michael can. So we decided to try to work up and get a shot, and then they get to watch the elk move off, right?
Yeah, they were going.
They were going. And so then we start making loops trying to get on them again. Don't really get on them that morning. See some really cool country and see that this is a place where elk can be. And like, we think that like we can come there the next morning and have elk come by us and shoot them pretty much. But on the way out, since these elk are not scared of roads too much, they're crossing the road to go where they want to be for the day. So we're like, well, let's go up on that road, see if we can find tracks. And what we find?
Tracks?
Tracks. That's right. Eric knew they were going to be there. He dropped a pin.
I told you.
He told us.
Told you all week.
Did he really?
No, not really.
Like, and you go up there and it sets up perfect. You're like, okay, well.
Is this like a Google pen or what is he?
Like a calf pin, you know. Like
PEN.
Yeah.
Not PIN.
Yeah, no, it was a
pen.
Onyx. Well,
Texans spell pen PEEYUN, right?
it's what you're doing, right?
Pen.
Yeah. So we're pretty much like, okay, we know what to do this afternoon. We're going to go up in there and shoot them elk because we knew where they were going to head. They went up this mountain.
Sounds like you have plural tags when you say that.
Yeah, we do.
Shoot them elk.
The tags are confusing in Arizona. Just FYI.
Yeah, for real.
But midday we had to go back to town again for ice. So again, I don't like having to go to town.
How hot was it getting?
It was getting warm in the afternoons.
Like 90?
I don't think it got quite there, but
in
it's
the 80s.
80s and sunny. And going on this point, we were only on full day 2 of the hunt, but everything had been iced down for over 4 days. And you're kind of starting to run out of ice after that much time, you know? So, and town wasn't but like a 40-minute round trip probably, so it wasn't too bad. And we came back and, we grabbed camp because we were going to move camp to this really beautiful spot that we found. And then we moved it all over there, got everything set up, got the truck unloaded finally. Like, we hadn't unloaded the truck the whole time. There's still tubs and junk in there. And finally got this card table out that I brought so that we could, put the water on top of it and all that. Got everything set up like real good for a base camp. And then set the tent up, and then I look up and say, there's a big dead tree right there, right over the tent. Cool. I hope it doesn't get windy when we're trying to sleep here. We say, it should be fine, because it's not like rotten bad, but it's definitely a dead tree. So we're like, it'll be all right. Well, we decide it's time to go hunting. We got the bow out, shot a little bit. I like to do like a scenario type shot, So I put 68 yards out there. It's like, all right, just going to see. And I nail it at 68. But I'd shot a 55 before that, and I hit a little left. But I was like, I need to make sure and take my time. I kind of rushed it or whatever. So nailed 68, but they were both killing shots, So I felt good after that. And then we hit the mountains pretty much. Made a trek up the mountain, snuck within 40 yards of a cow we didn't know was there, and then she got weird and ran off, and that's how we knew she was there. So apparently we were on the elk. Sad that a target animal ran away. That was not a good thing. And then we made it all the way up to where we thought there were going to be elk, and there weren't any elk up there, but it's an elky looking spot. Saw a trail camera, which are illegal in Arizona now.
Gummit.
Yeah, somebody is breaking the law.
It did look pretty old, though. I don't know if you guys caught that, but
Do you think it was like the DNR?
They love to do illegal things, so I bet. If there's any crook in the world, it is the
that's what I was thinking.
The feds.
The feds for sure. No, I think that was a dude. And since trail cameras are illegal in Arizona now, that just means don't put them on the water holes where everybody knows they're at. Just go put them up in a spot. Doesn't mean that, but I think that's what people are doing.
I don't think it was a lady?
Nah. Meh.
Que aqua, nah.
People don't have a clue what's going on now. Sorry, guys. I don't think it was that old. I think that the metal case it was in looked old, but it was a covert camera.
It was just a
there.
wild game that had been out there for 2 months.
That's it, exactly. But we made sure and walked around that thing. Well, we got up there to the top, and it looks like a really good ambush point for some elk. There's like a saddle, and you can tell elk are spending some time in there. There's a couple rubs and stuff. And Greg and I are like, oh, that's cool. And the guys are kind of hanging out behind us a little bit. Michael and Greg, we kind of figured out like the spread out kind of system by this point in time. And then we hear a big rusty. And Greg gives me the eyes. He says, do you want to go after it? I was like, yeah, let's go. So Greg, like, I don't want to say took over, but like he had a plan in mind of what we should do. And I was like, yeah, that sounds good.
Well, we heard cow calls.
Did we hear that first? I thought we heard that on the way down.
Right? We heard cow calls across on the other drainage. And then we heard the big rusty.
Mm-hmm.
Big Rusty.
Oh, Big Rusty, BR. Of course, we have been talking about how cow calls you hardly ever hear, like naturally. We're out here making this noise as hunters that you don't hardly ever get to hear. And I think that almost everybody cow calls with too much spread in the cadence, if that makes sense. Because every time I've ever heard a cow call, it's meow, 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 like fast. Mm-hmm. And that's what we heard that time. And I felt pretty good when I heard that cow calling, and I knew it was not a dude, right, or a lady. I felt real good about our opportunities because it's like, okay, we got a vocal cow. She's probably wanting to move and find, or she's looking for somebody or something. So we make this big old loop down the hill, drop about 150 feet of elevation, which is probably, I don't know, a quarter mile, probably something like that. To get down below them because the thermals are pulling down. So we want to make sure the thermals are in our favor. Start working up through some really thick stuff. And
has the sun gone down yet?
The sun is just setting.
Gotcha.
Yes. And that the thermal started pulling down before that because there were storm clouds on the horizon, and as soon as the sun went behind the storm clouds,
gotcha.
So the thermals have been sucking for a little bit. They were pretty stable. We start moving our way up. Can hear the bugles. We're getting closer. And so I start cow calling, and the bulls are answering me. There's two bulls. There's what sounds like a smaller one and Big Rusty. So we think like 95% sure it's the same group that we saw that morning. It just all makes sense. Cows, two bulls, smaller, bigger. And we're like, well, this is where we thought they were. So we might know a little something about elk hunting right now. I don't know if we know very much, but we know that. And however, two members of the Arizona Elk crew did not know the difference in mule deer fawns and cows. Because on the way up, Greg and I bumped
if you could see their faces, you would know who it is.
we spooked these two mule deer fawns, and we're like, crap, we don't want them to run up to the elk. Mm-hmm. So we were trying to slip by them, and you did a couple cow calls, and they kind of just stopped right there.
They accepted us as elk at that point in time.
So we walked right by them at like 20 yards.
There's a competition in the Arizona woods of the dumbest animal, and for a while we thought it was a mule deer doe, but mule deer fawn is real dumb.
Takes the cake.
Greg and I walk right past them. Well, we don't communicate with Eric and Michael except for like some eyes of like, hey, this is about to go down with these cows. From there on, pretty much. And so work our way up the hill, get to this like our friend Chris Rowe talks about the doorway principle a lot, and we kind of were in one of those spots where like it's real thick in front of us, and we're like 30 yards from the thickness, and elk is going to come out of that and look for something, and that's exactly what happened. We could hear bump, bump, the elk kick rocks and logs and stuff. They're the loudest things ever, right? Well, we're hearing all that. I cow call a little bit, and they start meow, 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 and here they come. And I'm like, oh gosh, it got intense quick. Well, there's a lead cow who is like not super big, but I wonder if she was like the one who's the most curious because she was a little younger and was like, oh, I'm going to go see what that is. Well, she's taking everybody with them, and I'm wondering if the bull isn't behind them too, pushing them. We can't really see that. It's too dark up in there. We're not pushing it on like shooting light, but it is getting later to the point of like your vision is being affected by the darkness, right? And this lead cow comes out and just walks right into the open straight on frontal at 30 yards, and I don't draw because I'm thinking she's going to turn or more elks are going to come out or whatever. Well, she locks it up at 30 and stares at us for a while. How long do you think she was there?
At least a minute, minute and a half.
And we passed the test. And I think part of the reason we passed the test is because she had like 6 or 7 of her buddies like pushing her to keep on going. And you could hear them like kind of like train wrecking up in there, like running into each other and stuff coming down the hill. Elk are weird. They like to move fast. Like they trot a lot, it seems, just moving across country. And so these other elk behind her are pushing her. She ends up turning a 90 and opening up to a broadside, goes behind a spruce tree. I go to draw, and I don't make any noise. It's quiet, though. But she spooks when I draw. And I don't know if her peripherals are that good or what, but she got wigged out. And what I really think happened is that I stopped paying attention to the other elk, and one of them was probably looking right at me when I drew. And so she does a half moon around this big old boulder that's the size of a Volkswagen. And I don't even remember doing this, but it's in the footage. I cow call to stop her, and unknown yardage, but I knew she's at 30 where she was, and I knew about that she had kind of probably hooked out 10 to 15 yards. So Greg knows it's about to go down for sure. Like I'm at full draw now. I have a 20 and a 30 on my pins, and I have a scroller, but I didn't have the opportunity to scroll it down or anything. So I took my 30 and put it where her spine would be, and kind of leveled my bubble and let off right there. And it's dark enough, and she's up in a shadier spot to where like I'll lose track of the arrow about like 10 yards in front of the elk. So I don't really know for sure where I hit, but I know that I hit the elk. I heard a distinct pop, and I was like, oh gosh. And I look back at Greg, and we're like kind of hyping, and I start cow calling to kind of slow him down or whatever, and then we just get quiet to listen, because they're like knocking limbs and all kinds of stuff, and y'all can hear this stuff too, I'd imagine, right? They're super loud. In this, at some point in time, Eric finds a mule deer shed too. I don't really know when that happened, but he found a mule deer shed. It was pretty cool.
Eagle eye.
Yeah, Eagle Eye Eric. We then hear like a crash, and I'm thinking, oh gosh, is this for real? Because a little unsure about the shot, right? I mean, everything felt good, but I just didn't see it. And we've talked about a lot how if you don't see the animal go down like anymore.
I thought I missed it 8 yards one time.
Yeah, it's weird, huh?
Yeah, when the arrow got under the canopy, it was just dark. I couldn't tell where it hit. Yeah. So, of course, I'm a little unsure about the shot. We're like kind of conferring on things. Greg then lets me know that he doesn't know about the footage too much, how things went. Not that he was recording. It's just it got weird and hectic at that moment. And then the other guys kind of catch up, and Michael goes, "Did y'all see the 2 cows that you walked right by?" Oh, there you go. Nobody's safe around here,
those
man.
Those are mule deer fawns. So then we all decide to go.
He's new to the western stuff,
He is, man. He is. And when you're a whitetail hunter, a mule deer fawn looks like an elk, man. Big.
Yeah, that's right.
They're actually tiny. Mule deer fawns are little, man. Like, can you imagine being like 50 pounds and being like, I got to face a Rocky Mountain winter in like 2 months?
Yeah, it sounds terrible.
Tough, man. But we decided to go, check out the site of impact. I mean, because I think I hit the elk, but I don't know for sure. And since it's unknown yardage, I mean, she could have been at 60. That was another thing, right? Like, Eric, elk seem a lot closer than they are a lot of the time, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought she was at 20 yards when she was standing frontal there.
Yeah.
Like, when you have deer to reference and that's all you got.
They're so big, he's like you can't tell too much, right? It's like if Shaq was out there in the middle of the hay pasture, you wouldn't know if he was 100 yards or 60 yards away because he's just a big dude and you just don't really know.
Yeah.
Like, how to compare him. So we walk up.
It's kind of like Brian's mustache.
That's right.
It's like you don't really know how big that thing is.
You don't know if he's smiling or mad. You got to watch his cheeks. You know. He's like. So we walk up to go kind of see where the elk was. I had a real good bearing on where she was when I shot, right? And I knew she's quartering away, so I knew I had a real good chance of hitting good stuff. And we walk up there. There's no blood, no hair. I'm like, gosh, is this for real? And then we're looking for the arrow, and Greg goes, "It's right there!" And it is stuck in a tree, like buried up in this pine tree at a really good height, and blood all over it. And that's when I started feeling pretty good.
What kind of broadhead did you shoot?
I shot a iron wheel wide.
Man.
After it treated me badly. But
They must be paying you.
They are not. By any means. Not even free stuff, all right? No, I bought my own new blades this off season. Because not trying to force something, but so many people say they're awesome that I want to give it its proper go. And it's not that it did me bad, but I could have shot, well, we'll talk about more of that later. I don't want to get too far ahead of the story.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm looking at the arrow, and those vectors have white veins and white wraps, so it makes it real easy to see, you know, what type of blood you have. And it looks like liver blood, which doesn't get me super pumped. It's very, very dark. And, I mean, you could hit them worse spots for sure, but it's not the ideal shot for an elk at dark on a mountain, right? So I'm a little bit down in the dumps, but I do think it's a lethal hit after looking at the arrow and just the height that the area is on the tree. I was impressed that sucker went through an elk and stuck in a tree. It's pretty cool.
Classy.
Yeah. As for those of you who care, I'm shooting like 530 grains, I believe, something like that, at about 100 or 260 FPS, I believe. Is that right? You're faster, right?
I think mine's 282. Is that right?
Yeah. You're shooting 500 on the dot?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I'm shooting, you know, good setup. And then I know kind of her exit trail, and we're following like, you know, hoof prints or whatever, and then I see the first blood. I'm like, oh, good. She's at least bleeding. And then we start seeing better blood and better blood and better blood, and we track about 40 yards. Greg finds some blood that has some bubbles in it. I have seen bubbly blood that, let's just say, is not from a bubbly place. It's not always a guaranteed thing, right? Bubbles in the blood is like a lung shot normally, but you can get a bubble out a lot of ways. But we're feeling pretty good about it. Greg says we should wait 30 minutes just to make sure, because I'm about to take off tracking and probably make a mistake, honestly, or could have, I don't know. So we decided to sit down and chill out for a while. We're hanging out, talking, having a good time, and then continue the trek on. And the blood never gets better, but it's decent. Eric and I tracked a hog with a really good shot for about 150 yards one time, and like it should have been heart shot dead, and better blood than what this cow was. And we ended up bumping the pig and never finding it. So like ever since that experience, I am wary of blood trails. I mean, unless it's the red carpet or you see the animal fall, like I'm not confident. Mm-hmm. This elk is going uphill the whole time too. Does not make me feel good. And the one thing that kind of was a redeeming factor on the blood trail is that you could see that the blood was pumping, as in like, you know, like you could see it was squirting out of her. So that kind of means arterial or something. You know, it's better than just like through the liver. And it's coming out both sides, which is also good. We're trailing up the mountain. I'm feeling kind of down the dumps. It's actually kind of getting a little worse. And I'm looking around. I'm trying to figure out where she went. And then Michael says,
guys, Right there.
More enthusiastic than that. And he says, she's right there. Which to me means look like 10 yards. No. I almost stepped on this cow, dude. Like, she was right there. Like, I could kick her from where I was standing, but you're just so in the zone looking at the...
Right in the beam of the flashlight.
She's right there, dude.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
That's
She
cool.
ran up the hill until she tipped over and died. Yeah.
Following the herd, man.
That's it.
Them herds ain't hurt.
No.
You know what I mean?
She's keeping up.
Yeah.
And I could not have hit this elk any better if I tried.
So, double lung.
So, yeah, I hit like right at the crease on the near side and exited through the shoulder on the opposite side.
Did it go through the shoulder blade?
I don't know.
Right
I think
right through the triangle.
Yeah,
Like,
right through the soft spot.
right against
there.
the bone, just perfect.
Yeah.
Dang, man.
Pretty
How much
cool.
is that? How much does that cow weigh?
I think she weighed 350 pounds.
Really?
That's my guess.
Cool.
What do y'all think? We talked about this as she was laying on the
350,
ground.
400.
Yeah.
I have no idea how to.
In the picture, she looks
yeah.
about twice the size of you.
Dude, the head on that thing was crazy.
Yeah. Long nose.
Yeah, for real, man. There's no way to, like, not have a mule-faced doe or cow. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
they're hard to take a picture of. Because when you have antlers, then you can, like, oh, look, I can hold these things. But this, I'm not, like, holding onto an ear to hold her head up, It's kind of weird. But she wasn't very old. I cut her ivories out, and they weren't very big. So that kind of meant to me she's probably, like, 2 years old or something. But means already the tastiest animal in the woods, in my opinion. And then a young one at that, pretty good. So we start doing the gutless and cut her up and put her in packs and took her down the mountain, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then moved camp.
And then moved camp.
Because
we
of the
actually had to do
ominous-
some things in between there. Eric had the fortuitous idea to pack up the truck to an extent because he's like, I don't want to do this in the morning or something. Why did you decide that we should put stuff in the truck?
Well, let's just say, as you were cutting up the cow, I was watching lightning off in the distance and was like, I think I made the comment, we gonna get wet tonight.
I didn't believe him because the
Just
weather
like
is finicky up there. And I was like, well, I'd looked at the weather app like 2 hours before that, and there was no rain in the forecast. It's like, it ain't gonna rain.
Yeah.
Well, Eric
And,
was right.
We get down and it's like, it's probably better to just pack up most of our stuff tonight so we don't have to do it in the rain in the morning. Because there was rain in the forecast the next day. And I figured if we just pack up then and all we had to do was the tent then in the morning, and it'd be good.
I start, let's see. We decide we're going to eat tenderloins, which is never a bad call. And they were real good. It's always good if you're truck camping to bring butter, I think. I mean, olive oil's good, but butter's the best. So tenderloins sauteed in butter, hard to beat. Had that and some Fritos
Cookies.
for supper and a lot of cookies. Eric went to hammering the cookies as soon as we got back to camp.
I just threw away a half a thing of duplex from Colorado.
Golly, dude.
They were on my dash. I don't know. I should have tested
about
them, but
those.
they were probably pretty nasty.
They start out nasty, but they good. So the Cookie Monster was out that night for sure. Had a campfire. Greg put the campfire together while Eric got the cookies out. And Eric took over doing some filming. He filmed me do some cooking and stuff. So he was doing some good stuff there. And then Michael was doing something else to help. I don't remember what you were doing.
Dropping footage
That's
and cleaning coolers.
That's right, cleaning
Man.
coolers. Yeah, so
Helpful guys.
everybody was like on task, doing some stuff. It was a good evening. And then kind of after supper, Eric brought up the idea of putting up all the stuff. So we worked on that for a
What
while.
time was it then?
I think it was 11.
I
Wasn't
thought it was later than
It was
that.
like 1 o'clock. We
It
got
was like
back at
midnight, 12:30.
Oh, yeah, it
like
was
that.
midnight because other things start happening about 1 o'clock. So about midnight, we decided to put a lot of stuff in the truck. And we were like...
Grizzly bears came in.
That's it. No. Well, about 1 o'clock, it's time for us to finally go to bed. Eric and Michael were always real good about being the first ones in there and going to sleep quick. Those guys apparently have it together, or at least don't require too much pruning to go to sleep. I had a couple things I was trying to put a bow on to get done for the evening, Greg had to organize his nest for 15 minutes. I don't know what he was doing over there, dude, but he was working on his sleeping pad, making everything perfect. I guarantee you at least 15 minutes. What was the major complication there?
I don't know. I had been sleeping in my hunting clothes the whole time, and so all right, I'm gonna put on some comfortable clothes and relax and get a good night's sleep. And I hadn't set up my sleeping pad yet or my sleeping bag. So it took me a while to get ready.
You got everything all set.
As I'm trying to fall asleep, I can just hear KC blowing up his air mattress.
Yeah,
and just
I'm making my air mattress fully inflated.
Let me just tell you this: you start inflating your air mattress at 12,200 feet, and you can pass out real quick.
I
baby.
would bet. I would bet you could. Get my air mattress inflated. I get a spot of service. It's real touchy over there, but I start getting service. So I look at my phone. I look at the weather. We can hear the blowing outside start. And look at the weather, and you can do hourly forecast, and it goes out like 30 hours, and it shows thunderstorms for the next 30 hours starting at 1:30 p.m. or a.m. It's 1:15. All the lights are off. I say, hey, guys, it's about to get windy, and that big dead tree's right there. I don't really want to clean up Michael's brains out of this tent. I think we should go ahead and pack stuff up and head to town and get a motel. And Greg, I could tell like there was a little hesitation, but then he was like, it's the right call. So he hops up out of bed. Michael hops up. And Eric, what did you say?
I don't even remember.
What did Eric say?
I was like 30 seconds falling asleep, and I'm just like, oh, no.
I just remember,
like,
dang it.
That's what it was. Like, we all knew it was the right call, but none of us wanted to do it. But sometimes you got to make a pitching change, man, and that's what we did, right? So at 1:15, we got up and packed up camp for about 20 minutes, and it started drizzling on us on the way out, and made it back to town.
We're now at the point, too, where we are so tired that everything is funny. Like, we were laughing, putting up the
Silly
tent.
things were happening. It was real good. We went to the convenience store to get more ice, I think, right? And then went to the motels. Everybody was sold out. So we had to drive to the next big town, which was Flagstaff, and got a motel there. So, and we decided to bring in our elk packs into the hotel and wash them in the shower, get all the blood off of them. So I don't go to sleep until 3:25 that night. They went to sleep about 3. I think Greg stayed up with me for a while working on the elk packs. And then you and Brian Bostic decided to start texting at like 6:30 the next morning. So, so that was the night of the kill, man. It was a fun, eventful. Oh, within there, I signed the mango.
Yep.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. So
How's that mango doing?
Out in the truck right now,
it's
probably.
still pretty
We probably should
firm.
keep it inside and keep it hard for a little bit, you know.
Eric was mushing on it a lot.
Yeah, he doesn't want it.
He doesn't want to admit, dude. He wants it to ripen.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm going to make this thing mushy that way it doesn't make it. But it for sure is getting a couple more signatures before it's done. I can promise you that.
Well,
Yeah.
it's
But
cool, man.
that's the story of the elk hunt.
awesome.
Is there any other inside joke stuff from the way home? Well, we told the tennis shoe thing, didn't we?
Yeah.
The Chick-fil-A thing. So
Apparently, y'all hammered a few chilies on the way home, too.
we did. Michael, dude, he looked like. You ever watch the hot dog eating contest where they're like forcing them down when they don't want to anymore, but they're still doing it?
Yeah.
That's what he looked like.
Well, we had those nice people that gave us the peppers, and I
Yeah.
didn't want to just like dump it out. And I was like,
That's why I gave mine to you. I was like, I'm not eating all this.
yeah, he pawned his off on me, and I was sitting
Golly.
there with burning lips, burning throat. I mean, I've never experienced anything like it.
But it was good.
It was green chilies, right?
These weren't technically Hatch
Yeah.
because Hatch Valley is south of there a little bit, but these are as good. So Hatch is like a marketing term, pretty much, you know. But
It's like the epicenter of green chilies.
yeah, this is from that Snake Ranch Farms, which we stopped there before. It's a pretty cool place to get chilies. And
Get a
these
snake snack?
Yeah, I didn't see any snakes there. Eric was so scared of snakes the whole time, dude. He saw a snake skin one time in the mountains about lost it.
Saw a gardener snake and got just terrified.
Yeah.
Really?
I touched it.
I picked it up for him. But the people there's some New Mexicans that were getting like 150 pounds of chilies, like the year's supply. This is the time of year they come off, right? So like it's on in the chili world. Well, if you hadn't had New Mexican green chilies, like it's the move. They're good. Roasted green chilies, delicious. Different flavor profiles, different heats out there. Well, they gave us these people that had pulled up next to us were getting their year's supply, and the lady was being nice and was like, "Hey, you want a chili? Sure, I'd take one." And it's kind of that thing where it's like, you find you know how old men like to give kids their first dip of snuff or whatever, just to make them sick?
That's what was happening there.
That was happening.
She wasn't actually being nice.
She was being nice, but she took a little joy in seeing some people who weren't from New Mexico burn down on these chilies. Mm-hmm. And I did too, because I told them, because they came back out. I was like, hey, so me and that one guy there are from Texas. The other two guys are from Ohio and Illinois. And they are having a hard time right now. And they thought it was awesome. They loved it so much.
Bet they did.
They did. It was cool. And then we headed home, and that was about it. We saw a bunch of elk on the way home, took the scenic route, and
that's
had
cool.
a good trip.
Awesome, dude. Well, I'm glad you got you an elk finally.
Yeah.
Been a couple of years.
It has. It's been sad. I'm glad to have it. We're going to do some meat cutting up today and probably look at some footage here in a little bit. But sorry that podcast was just a lot of me talking. But, I mean, I had the first-hand experience of what happened.
Every guy has a doe story, you know what I mean?
I guarantee you, dude. That's exactly right, dadgummit.
That's all right, man. It was a good story. It was good.
Delete that, Michael.
4 dudes, man, got to go and kill an elk together. It's a pretty cool deal.
It was, man. It was a good, fun trip. We had a good time. Michael, what did you learn the most?
Probably the most would be about camera stuff.
Oh, how about that?
Like being the second angle, definitely like being 20, 30, even 50 yards back is way better than being piled up and spooking elk and not really getting any interesting footage. Like that was probably the number one thing I learned. And just, man, I want to go elk hunting again.
That's cool.
Is the other thing.
Yeah, good. Greg, you're the other person who's hunted elk a little bit. So a little bit different perspective. What'd you learn?
Learned a bunch about calling.
Yeah.
Because I've never been with anybody who actually knew how to call like you. And
I'm okay.
You're pretty good. And learned a lot about elk movement, where they like to be. Learned a lot about autofocus.
Yeah.
You know?
It's an interesting thing, isn't it? Yeah. Technology, man. Sometimes it makes your life better. Sometimes it makes it worse.
Sometimes. But, I learned a bunch about elk hunting. It was a lot of fun. And can't wait to do it again.
Me neither. Eric, what'd you learn?
Probably just don't talk and stand 400 yards back. By the end of the trip, that's just what I was doing. It worked out. So.
It worked out good. Yeah. No, you weren't that far behind, were you?
No.
You're like
probably 100
yards down the hill. I feel like you had another remark about whitetail in relation to the elk hunt. Didn't you pretty much say, like, you think that you're a whitetail hunter?
Oh, yeah. I said I appreciate whitetail a lot more than I used to after the mule deer and elk hunt. And I don't know why. I just think I like whitetail hunting a lot.
It's because you're from the Midwest, dude.
I think that's it.
Cookies,
it's
man.
Sweet corn and whitetail, dude.
Get the corn in front of me. Let's go.
Dude, it's so funny. We'd be driving across like some flat ground in New Mexico, and Eric's like, look at this place. You could plant so much corn out here, and there ain't no corn. Or something. He'd say something like that.
Yeah, you could. It'd be dead real quick.
It would be. They had some corn out. They gave it eat by the elk real quick, too.
Yeah.
I asked the guys, I think as we were driving down the mountain in the middle of the night, I asked them if they would go on a cow elk hunt again, specifically, and everybody said yes.
How about it?
It's pretty fun.
Yeah, sounds fun.
It was. It was neat. It was neat to like not have the pressure of trying to find a bull you want to shoot and go to a place. Because here's the unique aspect of this is that you're in a place that's well managed for elk, low hunting pressure, and there's plenty of animals around. So take the antlers out of it, it's still an elk hunt. It's fun as all get out, and there's like ample opportunity.
Yeah.
As compared to an over the sea is what I was about to say. Over the counter opportunity.
Over the sea.
Where there's dudes everywhere and not as many elk, and they're not acting very elky because they're just running from people the whole time.
Only dudes?
Yeah. Only dudes. I mean, it's the truth. So, I don't know. I think that it was awesome, man.
I think from like a more Midwestern perspective, if you're like a 40-year-old, 50-year-old dude who's never gone elk hunting, go do a cow elk hunt. Like, it is worth it. Like, don't be all focused on shooting the biggest elk or whatever. Just go into the elk woods. 'Cause it is a good time.
So, like any guy that wears like blue Asics, right?
Exactly.
I'm not from the Midwest.
It's a Midwestern shoe for sure.
Okay.
That's true. Southwestern, too. So, yeah. Man.
That's
Well,
the trip, man.
cool. Well, hopefully we'll get that video out soon. I don't know what the plan is. We hadn't actually talked about it. It's the first day y'all been back. But we do have a Colorado video that has a mule deer buck going down in it that will be coming either soon or has by the time this thing releases. I'm not sure when this all going to play out. And then, like we mentioned at the beginning, Hunter has a velvet buck in his freezer now because of a bunch of hard work from four other dudes, or a group of 4 Element guys, 2 of you guys and Brian and Hunter. So there's a trip and a video out of it. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. It's a pretty awesome, epic celebration. And those hunts early season are hard sometimes. And we're actually going to be partaking in some more early season stuff here pretty soon.
It's wild. It doesn't seem early season, though, because we've been hunting so much already.
Yeah.
But it is.
Well, that's like, I had a guy that's trying to buy some piece of hunting backpack or something from me. And he's like, can we get this done before deer season? And I'm like, or before hunting season? And I was like, I've already started hunting. I'm like, I don't know. So, I mean, technically, I guess anything before October 1 for most guys is probably early. But
our whitetail season is about to kick off quick because some of these dudes leave like in a week to go whitetail hunting. Yeah. And between now and then, we're about to go do some camera work on some public land. So tomorrow, we're going to get out. We actually got a covert operation. We got this one spot that we ain't even going to let these guys know where it's at.
That's right.
And it doesn't have good cell phone service. We're going to use those new Moultrie Edge cameras. They pick up like the best service possible. Doesn't matter what provider.
Yeah.
And so we're going to go in there with one of those, drop that thing, and maybe get some like close intel.
Which is a good thing because there are times when, and a lot of that stuff in that spot doesn't have service. Mm-hmm. So, but you and I both have the same provider. So who knows, like, if there's a better provider in that area. I don't.
Homeboy over here has T-Mobile, right? And it's usually terrible, but there's like one time when he had great service and nobody else had service.
Yeah. Yep. So we're going to find the best service down there, and hopefully instead of, and this camera, we have a camera down there that has been taking pictures for a year now, and, or, you know, whatever it lasted. Yeah. And basically don't know what's on it, but I can almost guarantee you there's at least a shooter, if not several on it, because we've had that happen in the past year here. And the cell cam is going to really be advantageous for us there because we've always had a non-cellular version of a trail camera there, and it's always been pretty much check it after the season because it's so just kind of out of the way and far away and just a hard place to get into. It's a long walk in and everything. So the cell cam might help us to kill a deer there this year. I think it definitely could.
That'd be cool.
Anyway, pretty excited about that.
Lots of history there, man. It'd be cool to finally make something happen on that little piece.
Yeah, it would. It would, man. We do a lot of searching and trying to find little spots and, you know, thinking about it and looking at it and all the different, you know, sleuthing that KC can do and whatever else, you know, like it's just we're always trying to find the spot, man, you know, where is this going to be, you know, how do we triangulate trail camera pictures of deer and stuff to find them in the daylight and all this stuff.
I was looking, we were trying to find some pictures from years past, and I was looking through and I found the first original teenager pics. Speaking of triangulation.
Those are cool.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
So what was that like? That was
January
of 18?
17.
17?
I believe so.
Golly.
Yeah. So
And
that was a cool saga. I wish I knew what happened.
yeah, but we hunted him 3 years straight, right?
Yeah. Never saw him in person.
Never saw him in person.
Got lots of pictures of
Got
him.
real close, dude. There was times when he was like in the woods near us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The second to last year we had him on camera, he was big, dude. Mm-hmm. A nice buck.
I want to say, to be so bold to say, I would like another crack at that same situation now, knowing what we know now.
Yeah.
Not that we're experts by any means, but like the more experience you have,
That's right.
the better you are at this. And that's just what Michael was saying about elk hunting.
Yep.
Got to get out there and do it, right? Because right now, I guarantee you, we could send Michael out on an elk hunt, and he would have some semblance of what to do.
Sure.
Even old Eric over here be dropping some pins and figuring out a place to be.
Tag
You know?
on it, dude.
Now, Eric knew some stuff because of y'all's hunt too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like talking about that. He said y'all saw a lot of elk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't kill any.
You weren't hunting them.
Yeah. No, that's good advice, man. Definitely, that experience is the ultimate teacher, man. So y'all remember that, and remember, this is your element.
Living it.
The new Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook Wild Game Recipes for the Grill, Smoker, Campfire, and Camp Stove is out on April 24th and is available for pre-order now. Here is your book for everything that's best cooked or eaten outside. From grilling to open fire cooking to Dutch ovens to smokers to barbecue to backpacking meals to how to pull off the perfect fish fry, with pit stops along the way for lessons about Ice Age cooking methods and the best 5 ways to construct a cooking fire you can be proud of. And of course, we're focusing on wild game and fish here with over 100 recipes, including stuffed venison burgers 3 ways, wild duck with ahi verde sauce, a jerky made with cola, a gin and tonic made with fire-charred lemons, and grilled frog legs made with a sticky sweet sauce. This ain't your normal cookbook, so be prepared to be surprised. Pre-order your copy now. For more info, visit themeateater.com.